They say love blinds you, but I never thought I'd be the fool who didn't see it coming. From the moment I met Kimberly, she was a wildfire, unpredictable, exhilarating, and impossible to ignore. She had this magic about her, the way she could turn a simple grocery run into an adventure, a lazy Sunday into a spontaneous road trip. I fell hard, but what I didn't realize was that the woman I loved wasn't addicted to life. She was addicted to the thrill. And eventually, I stopped being enough. At first it was subtle, late nights out, half-hearted excuses, the way she smiled at her phone but never at me anymore. I convinced myself it was just a phase, until the night I walked in and saw her standing in front of the mirror, fixing her lipstick, dressed to kill. That's when I knew. I had already lost her. But what she didn't know, she was about to lose everything too. 2 weeks later, she handed me divorce papers, standing there with a practiced smirk, thinking she had won. She called me boring, said she needed more excitement. But the real kicker? She thought she was, walking away with half of everything I had built. She was already spending the money in her head, laughing with her friends about how she had played her cards right. There was just one problem. She never read the prenup. And in just a few days, that smug little smirk of hers would be gone forever. Kimberly never bothered to read the prenup. She wasn't just mentally spending my money. She was already living like she had it. That entire week, I watched as she completely abandoned any sense of restraint. Home-cooked meals? A thing of the past. She dined on high-end sushi, imported, steaks and $25 smoothies, every meal a luxury, every bill charged to her own card without hesitation. Then came the extravagant getaway, a weekend in Miami with her friends, first-class flights, a 5-star hotel, all prepaid. Shopping sprees followed, designer handbags, boutique dresses, expensive jewelry. She adorned herself like a trophy, wife, before even securing the title. And I let her. I watched in silence as she built a fantasy life on an illusion. Because I knew something she didn't, her dream was about to shatter. The night before she was set to meet with her lawyer, we sat across from each other at dinner. She scrolled through her phone, completely at ease, a smug smile resting on her lips. Every so often, she sighed contentedly, like someone who had just secured the deal of a lifetime. Finally, she glanced up, smirked, and said, "You know, I really hope we can stay friends after all this." I set down my fork and met her gaze, offering a polite smile. Of course. She seemed pleased with herself, as if she were handling this all with grace. She took a slow sip of wine, savoring the moment. Then, with the kind of casual arrogance I almost had to respect, she said, "I know this must be hard for you, but I really think this is best for both of us." She sighed, setting her glass down gently. "And don't worry," she added as, if granting me some great mercy, "I won't make things messy." I simply nodded, biting back my own smirk. She had no idea. She thought she was being generous, that she was giving me an easy way out. She didn't realize that in less than 24 hours, she'd be the one begging for a second chance. The next morning, Kimberly strolled into her lawyer's office, glowing with confidence. She had spent the morning indulging herself, another designer handbag, luxury heels, a delicate gold necklace, probably picturing herself wearing it while sipping cocktails on a beach. To top it off, she treated herself to a $20 matcha latte, sipping it like a woman who believed she was about to secure the easiest payday of her life. She thought she had moved on from me already, thought that after this meeting she'd never have to think about me again, except on the first of every month when her alimony check arrived. But then, she actually read the fine print. Sitting across from her lawyer, she barely looked up from her phone as he flipped through the documents. She was completely at ease, the same way she always was when she thought she had the upper hand. The lawyer, A sharp-dressed older man cleared his throat. Kimberly, we've processed the divorce. Paperwork. But you never mentioned there was a prenup. She waved a dismissive hand, still scrolling. Oh, I skimmed it when we got married. It's just the usual, right? He adjusted his glasses, exhaling slowly. Not exactly. He turned the document toward her, tapping a section near the bottom. Clause 14b. If the petitioner initiates the divorce without cause, they waive their right to alimony and marital assets, aside from previously agreed joint property. Kimberly's fingers froze on her screen. She let out a small, nervous laugh. Wait, what does that mean? The lawyer set his pen down. It means, Kimberly, that since you're the one ending the marriage for personal reasons, you get nothing. No alimony, no share of Charles's assets. Her smile wavered. That can't be right. I spoke to his lawyer, he continued. They've refused to withdraw the divorce petition. As per the prenup, you leave with only what's yours. I could almost picture her in that moment, her mind racing, trying to process, trying to find a loophole. Her perfectly manicured fingers snatched the papers from the desk, flipping through the pages frantically. No, this isn't fair. I was supposed to... Her voice grew higher, tinged with desperation. Her lawyer laced his fingers together. This was signed legally, Kimberly. If you challenge it, you'll lose. It's airtight. Her breath hitched. For the first time. In weeks, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Panic. Her hands trembled as she gripped the papers, her nails digging into the edges. No, 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 this isn't fair. The lawyer remained calm. The court will see this as a mutual partnership, not a financial obligation on his end. Kimberly snatched up her phone, her nails clicking against the screen as she dialed frantically. I need to call Charles, her lawyer sighed. I strongly advise against that. No, he wouldn't do this to me, she muttered, shaking, her head in disbelief. But he did. And for the first time since this all started, she finally understood. I never thought I'd be the one to do this. But I did. And now, right before her lawyer's eyes, she was unraveling. The dreams of her luxury apartment? Vanished. That first-class getaway to Miami with her friends? Not happening. The vision of an effortless life, sipping cocktails at my expense? Shattered. And the cruelest part? She hadn't even reached rock bottom yet. My phone buzzed at work. Kimberly. I watched it ring, unmoved. When it went to voicemail, I checked the transcript. Charles, we need to talk. I think there's been a mistake. Call me back, please. A mistake? Oh no, Kimberly. You made your choice. Now you get to live with it. She was always a master manipulator, just the right mix of charm and crocodile tears, an expert at twisting reality to suit her needs. If she begged, pleaded, played the victim well enough, she believed she could turn any situation around. Not this time. The first voicemail was composed but urgent. The second, not so much. Charles, I don't know what kind of game you think you're playing, but we need to fix this. You can't just cut me off like this. Call me back. I let it ring again. The third voicemail came minutes later. This time her voice cracked. Charles, please. I think I messed up. Just call me back, okay? Now she was starting to understand. The future she had so confidently planned. Gone. The fantasy of moving on, upgrading her life at my expense, dissolved into nothing. And reality was sinking in. That evening, as I poured myself a drink, a text from my lawyer popped up. Kimberly's attorney reached out. She wants to renegotiate the terms. I assume your answer is still no? I smirked, typing back. Absolutely. This wasn't up for discussion. She signed the contract. She filed for divorce. She thought she was in control. Now that she realized she wasn't, she wanted to undo it all. Not a chance. But the real wake-up call didn't come from me. It came from her so-called friends. When she first decided to leave, she had bragged to everyone about how She was about to be financially set for life. She played the role of the empowered, independent woman, trading up. She soaked in the praise, the validation, the admiration. Now, she was flailing. And those same friends? Nowhere to be found. Carol, her loudest cheerleader, had stopped replying to texts. The women who toasted to her new chapter were suddenly too busy. The man she had been flirting with before the divorce ghosted. Nobody wanted to attach themselves to a sinking ship. And Kimberly was drowning. 2 days later, it happened. A knock at my door. I knew who it was before I even looked. I opened the door to find Kimberly standing there, unrecognizable. Gone was the confident woman who smugly handed me divorce papers. No designer clothes, no perfect hair, just a desperate woman who had lost everything. Her breath trembled, her fingers twisted together. "Charles, please, can we talk?" I leaned against the door frame, arms crossed. Silent. She took an unsteady breath. "I wasn't thinking clearly. I made a mistake." I raised an eyebrow. "A mistake?" She nodded quickly, swallowing hard. "I got caught up in everything. I let my emotions take over. But we don't have to do this. We can fix this. We've been together for so long and—" I cut her off with a quiet chuckle. "Kimberly, you don't love me. You love what I gave you. And now that it's gone, you regret it." Her lip quivered. "No, that's not—" I shook my head. "You made your choice." Her breath hitched. "Charles, please, I don't have anywhere to go." I met her eyes, unflinching. "Yeah, I know." Then I shut the door and locked it. Kimberly used to think she was untouchable, that she could walk away, take my money, and level up without a second thought. She had it all figured out, her future, her finances, her freedom. Now, she was homeless, broke, and lost, and for the first time in her life, she had no backup plan. The next day, my phone blew up with texts from mutual friends. Apparently, Kimberly had a full meltdown at a cafe, ranting loudly to Carol about how I was cruel and heartless. Carol, from what I heard, looked deeply uncomfortable. Kimberly even called her parents, probably expecting sympathy. Instead, they told her to figure it out herself. She stormed out in tears after realizing no one, not one person, was on her. Sighed. She spent years acting like she was above everyone, and now she had never been lower. Later that night, my phone buzzed again, one final text. "Charles, I don't know what else to say. I'm sorry. Please, can we just talk?" I stared at my screen for a moment. Then, just for fun, I typed back, "Sure. Meet me at the Grand Hotel lobby at 8 p.m. She responded within seconds. "Thank you. I'll be there." She probably thought this was her second chance, that if she cried just right, begged just enough, she could undo everything. But really, I just wanted to watch her realize there was nothing left to save. I arrived at the hotel early, taking a seat in the lounge. The air smelled of expensive cologne and fresh flowers. I ordered a drink, sat back, and waited. 8 p.m. The doors swung, open. Kimberly had tried to pull herself together. Fresh makeup, a new dress, heels clicking against the marble floors. But I saw it. The sag in her shoulders, the faint smudges under her eyes, even beneath layers of concealer. The tightness in her expression as if forcing herself to breathe. She spotted me, hurried over, and with a flicker of her old self, forced a smile. "Charles, thank you for meeting me." Her voice was soft, hesitant. I leaned back in my seat, fingers drumming lazily against the polished wood of the table. "Sure," I said. She hesitated. She wasn't used to this version of me, calm, indifferent. She had expected anger, bitterness, maybe even hope. Instead, I was just bored. Kimberly took a deep breath, voice laced with forced sincerity. "Look, I made a mistake, okay? I thought I wanted something different. But I see now that I was being—" I raised my glass, cutting her off with a smirk. Too late. I had done exactly what she never thought I would. And now, right before her lawyer's eyes, her world was unraveling. The lavish apartment she had dreamed of, gone. The first-class girls' trip to Miami, canceled. The future she had crafted, built on the assumption that I would always be her safety net, shattered. But the worst part? She hadn't even hit rock bottom yet. I was at work when my phone buzzed. Kimberly. I watched it ring, letting it go to voicemail before checking the transcript. Charles, we need to talk. I think there's been a mistake. Call me back, please. A mistake? Oh no, Kimberly. This wasn't a mistake. This was the consequence of your choices. She had always been a master manipulator. Flashing a smile here, shedding a few well-placed tears there. She knew how to twist situations, turn guilt into an advantage, and play the perfect victim when needed. But for the first time, there was no one left to save her. The first voicemail had been composed, almost demanding. The second? Not so much. Charles, I don't know what kind of game you think you're playing, but this needs to be fixed. You can't just cut me off like this. Call me back. I ignored it again. Then came the third. Her voice cracked this time. Charles, please. I think I messed up. Just call me back, okay? Oh, now it was sinking in. The future she had smugly envisioned was slipping away. The fantasy of upgrading her life, using me as a stepping stone, moving on without consequences, it was all crumbling. And she was, realizing it in real time. That evening, as I poured myself a drink, a text came in from my lawyer. Kimberly's attorney reached out. She wants to renegotiate the terms. I assume your answer is still no? I smirked as I typed back. Absolutely. This was never up for discussion. She had filed for divorce, assuming she was in control. Now that she realized she wasn't, she wanted to hit the undo button. But life doesn't work that way. Her next wake-up call didn't come from me. It came from her friends. At first, when she bragged about leaving me, they had cheered her on. They praised her independence, toasted to her new beginning. But now? Now they were busy. Her best friend, the loudest supporter, stopped replying to texts. The women who had encouraged her newfound freedom had suddenly disappeared. Even the guy she had been flirting with before the divorce? Nowhere to be found, because no one wants to be around a sinking ship, and Kimberly was drowning. 2 days later, it happened. A knock at my door. I already knew who it was before I even looked. I opened it to find Kimberly standing there, not the confident woman who had once handed me divorce papers with a smug grin. This woman was different. No designer outfit, no perfectly styled hair, no arrogance. Just a desperate woman who had lost everything. Her breath was shaky, her fingers twisted together. Charles, please. Can we talk? I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, waiting. She took a deep breath, struggling for composure. I wasn't thinking clearly, okay? I made a mistake. I raised an eyebrow. A mistake? She nodded quickly. I got caught up in everything. I wasn't thinking straight, but we don't have to do this. We can fix this. We've been together for so long. I chuckled, shaking my head. Kimberly, you don't love me. You loved what I could give you. And now that it's gone, you regret it. Her lip trembled. No, that's not. You made your choice. Her breath hitched. Charles, please. I don't have anywhere to go. I met her eyes, letting the moment linger. Then I nodded, slowly. Yeah, I know. And I shut the door in her face. The next day, my phone buzzed with messages from mutual friends. Apparently, Kimberly had a full breakdown at a cafe, ranting about how I had ruined her life. She called her parents, expecting sympathy, only to hear, "Figure it out yourself." She had spent years acting like she was better than everyone. And now, she had never been lower. Later that night, one final text came through. Charles, I don't know what else to say. I'm sorry. Please, can we just talk? I stared at it for a moment. Then, just for fun, I typed back, Sure. Meet me At the Grand Hotel lobby at 8 p.m. Her response was instant. Thank you. I'll be there. She probably thought this was her second chance, that if she played her cards right, she could undo everything. But I had no intention of saving her. I just wanted to watch the realizations sink in. I arrived early, took a seat, and ordered a drink. The hotel was buzzing with well-dressed guests, the scent of expensive cologne lingering in the air. At exactly 8 p.m., the doors swung open, and there she was. She had tried to pull herself together. Fresh makeup, a new dress, heels clicking against the marble floor. But I could see it, the exhaustion, the smudges under her eyes, the tightness in her expression. She spotted me and hurried over, forcing a smile. Charles, thank you for meeting me. I leaned back, fingers tapping against the table. Sure. She hesitated. She wasn't used to this version of me, calm, indifferent. She took a deep breath. Look, I made a mistake, okay? I thought I wanted something different, but I was wrong. I reached into my pocket, pulled out a folded document, and slid it across the table. She frowned, confused, then picked it up. As her eyes scanned the words, her breath caught. This is final? I smirked, lifting my glass. Signed and sealed. You should have come to court. Her lips parted. But we were going to talk about... I let out a low chuckle. Kimberly, this was never a negotiation. Her eyes filled with real tears this time. She had been so sure she had me wrapped around her finger. Now, she looked lost. So, that's it? She whispered. I stood, adjusting my jacket. That's it. She opened her mouth to argue, but I smirked. You wanted adventure, right? Enjoy it. And with that, I walked away. Kimberly always thought she could talk her way back into anything. A bad relationship, a luxury vacation, a man's wallet. But for the first time, no one was listening. A month later, I was out at a rooftop bar with friends when I saw her, sitting alone, staring at a half-empty cocktail. She looked different, like life had chewed her up and spit her out. No confidence, no glow, just regret. For a brief second, our eyes met. I saw it, the recognition, the desperation. Her lips parted as if to speak. I didn't wait. I turned away without a second glance, and that was the real revenge.